late this morning or this afternoon. There we go. I think we're in better shape now. Hello, hello. If we have not met before, my name is Danae, and I help people who are going through terrible times with their employers, basically. So that could be employment tribunal, the grievance processes, the disciplinary process, redundancy, things like that. And I have a company called Vala. And I built it. So I'm not an employment lawyer. I'm not a solicitor. I am a woman who got really pissed off when she saw a lot of people being treated badly at work. So I was a software engineer and I've worked in the tech industry. And I thought, my God, like, why is it so hard? Why is it so expensive to get legal support? This is outrageous. Like, what are people supposed to do? Like, if your employer does something awful to you, they're kind of daring you to do something about it because they know that most people can't afford to even hire a lawyer to get basic legal advice, much less to kind of guide them through all the different steps of the process. And so then they just get away with it. They just get away with it. There's no accountability in the system. You get this situation like the post office scandal. I just wrote an article for an HR magazine about the post office scandal. There is such a clear lack of accountability in some organizations that shows that they have just never been held to account for not doing what they are legally required to do. Because like the post office scandal, there must have been a whistleblower in the post office. There must have been people using a whistleblowing policy, which every company has to follow. You know, if a person blows the whistle, they have protections. They have legal protections. They have to be taken seriously. It has to be investigated. Like, but like the post office is such a good example of when there is no way to enforce those processes, when there's no way to enforce that accountability, then they can just get away with it for 14 years. 14 years they got away with that one. It was incredible. And so, like, to me, you don't have to, like, of course, if you can afford to get a solicitor to take care of a problem for you, go hire a solicitor. But if you can't, you should still have an option. You should still have an option. And that is why Vala exists. And I do these lives to answer people's questions. Hi, Blake. And to help them kind of make sense of what's happening to them, help them make sense of the situations that they are in, help them understand what leverage they might have with their employer. And yeah. Oh, and Hannah has got her first great comment here. My employer didn't submit an ET3 in time and the tribunal have denied an extension of defense. I'm so happy. So does that mean, Hannah, that they have found in your favor? Have they just ruled the whole way in your favor? Because that would be amazing. God, that's amazing. Because often we see employers getting away with some of that lower time scale or just delaying on the time scale. So I'm so pleased to hear that the judge didn't let them. Congratulations, Hannah. So I take it now you'll go to probably a remedy hearing. That's so exciting. Oh, that's very good. Huge well done. Everybody, can we give Hannah some love hearts? Because that's massive. That's absolutely massive. Big victory there. Because this is what I talk about all the time. That what Hannah got the judge to do there is part of the rule book of employment tribunal. And often the employers and their solicitors, they know those rules and they use them all the time. And they'll file all of these applications and scare the shit out of you when you're trying to kind of like make your way through the process. And they'll say, because of rule 20 something, you have to do this, or we hope that we can strike out because of that. Well, you can use the same rule book. And Hannah did, because Hannah's awesome. And she used the same rule book to then get the judge to throw out the other side's case because they didn't follow the rules. It's called, if you want to Google the rule book, it's called the Employment Tribunal Rules of Procedure 2013. Their solicitors actually asked for an extension after the date. I couldn't believe it. I can believe it, Hannah. I mean, the crazy stuff that they try to get away with because, you know, they just hope that they hope that you don't know any better and that you might not kick up a fuss because you might not notice because you don't know the rules. And that is why Vala exists. That's why I do these lives. That's why I rushed home to get online, because I was in the office and I was like, I gotta go home and do live, because I want you to be armed with that information, because that is what makes you powerful. And there is absolutely no reason why each and every one of you cannot be powerful in the situations that you are in if you have a problem with your employer. There is no reason why they have to hold all of this power over you and keep you in the dark about a situation to try and benefit themselves. You have just as much capability. In fact, I think that one of the most audacious things that we believe in at Vala is that people can do this themselves. I think of all the things that we work in AI, we do all this big, bold stuff. I think the boldest thing that we have done is just assumed that people can do this themselves, because a lot of people don't believe them. Okay, let me just, I've got a few more questions here. So Benny, what if during the SRA you find out that a manager, when you say SRA, do you mean SAR? You find out a manager during grievance investigation who is then appointed to, okay, don't know. I'll wait for Benny to finish that one. And I'll quickly skip to Nima, but don't worry, I will come back to you, Kendall. Nima says, my toxic employers paid up right before my hearing. Thank you. Nima, congratulations. Can we give Nima some love hearts, everybody, please? Oh my God, that is amazing. Nima, were you, did we support you through that? Did we help you get there? I'd love to ask if you could maybe do a case study with us, if that's the case. And huge congratulations. You must be so relieved. You must be delighted. Kendall is saying, can I ask, when do you take time off work because of your child? Let's see. So Kendall, do you mean what rights do I have to take time off because of my child? Is that your question? I don't think I fully understand it at the moment, but let me know if that is your question. Right. And whilst I'm hearing back from her, let me go back to Benny. So what if during your SAR, and for people who don't know, the SAR is the Subject Access Request, which is something that you have a legal right to. It has nothing to do with employment law. It's actually your right as a citizen to request from any company, including your employer, personal information about yourself. And the amazing thing is, you can get the conversations happening about you in the background given to you. So that's what Benny has done. What if during the SAR, you find out that a manager during the grievance investigation, who is then appointed to hear a grievance, made a statement calling you a master hacker who was going to bring the system down? Good question, Benny. So, So Benny, I think I'd need to know what the grievance was regarding and what your potential legal claim might be regarding. I think, no, Rebecca, there is no time limit on the SAR. You can request a SAR at any point whatsoever. Okay, so discrimination and whistleblowing. And when they say master hacker bringing the system down, do you think that that was them saying, you know, as a whistleblowing complaint, this person is Benny is going to ruin us, and therefore we need to stop him? Or why do you think they called you that? I think I'm just trying to understand, because what I'm not hearing is master hacker being attached or a code phrase for any particular protected characteristic that I'm aware of. And I'll give you an example, Benny. You know, if I saw in a SAR that, let's say a Black woman had raised a grievance, if you saw in a SAR someone calling her angry or aggressive a lot in the emails about her, you might say, actually, that is, you know, grounds for an issue around race discrimination, because there is a stereotype often applied to women of color using those words. So yeah, that's what I was just checking. Okay, so that's what I read it as. So basically they're saying Benny is going to take us down from inside. I was dismissed after she made that statement and I had blown the whistle. Okay, well, that's very good. So Benny, what that statement might be quite helpful for is, and I will get to everyone's questions, I promise. At this point, I can still promise that. what that statement could be very useful for is when you have whistleblowing as a claim, a legal claim, you need to prove a few specific things. One is you need to prove that you did a protected disclosure and that it meets the criteria for a protected disclosure. And so when you blow the whistle, to be protected by the legislation, it needs to fit into a certain number of categories. Then you need to prove that you were suffered a detriment. And since you were dismissed, that would be the detriment that you're talking about. But you also have to prove the link, that because you did the protected disclosure, you then suffered this detriment, and that they didn't dismiss you for some other reason. Now, what that statement could be is that could be the link. And if they did it after she made that statement, that could be you proving that there was a link, that because you had blown the whistle, she is saying Benny's going to take us down, therefore Benny should be dismissed. Even if she doesn't say it outright, that could be the evidence that you're looking for as part of, alongside the timing of when she said it and when you were dismissed. Does that make sense, Benny? Okay. Right. Nima, I'm still so delighted with you. I'm so happy. And it goes to show that their manipulation doesn't pay off. Yes. Okay, cool. Okay, great. And Nima says, I fought with their solicitor on my own for months thanks to your tips. Oh my goodness, Nima, that is wonderful. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so Shan says, is race grounds for automatic unfair dismissal? And what do we quote? Great question, Shan. Yes. So for people who don't know what automatic unfair dismissal is, in the UK, you only get the right against unfair dismissal after 2 years of employment. Now, a lot of people think that that means that they can be sacked for any reason before 2 years, but that's not true. You have a lot of rights against what is called automatic unfair dismissal, which basically means that it's so obviously wrong that you don't even have to take the usual test. It's just automatically bad. And discrimination is one of the automatic unfair dismissal reasons. And in your particular case, Shan, it would be discrimination on the basis of race. So yes, you would want to be looking at the Equality Act. That is the legislation. And actually, if you go and create a free account on my website, which is vala.uk, then you will find a My Claims section, and that will actually list out the different claims, and we cite the legislation so that you can go and read it. So hopefully that will help you, Shan, as you're kind of identifying what's happened to you. But great job understanding, great job putting these pieces together, because that's the hard work that's most important to do right now. Vivian I was talking about, employers like keeping you in the dark, and Vivian saying it's just a game to them, but it's a livelihood and so much more to you. And that really makes a difference later on. Donna Patterson, who won her case against Morrison's as a self-representer and has done TEDx talks, she co-hosts our employment tribunal support group. She often says, nobody knows your case as well as you do, and nobody is going to fight your case as well as you do. So, they might be playing games, but you're the one who really cares. Can you explain more about priority employees during redundancy from April? Nicole, that's a good question, and I can't actually, but I will go find out, and then I will. Thank you for flagging that. Okay, Salumi. Salumi has their PH next week, and I'm so scared. Can we all give love hearts to Salumi, please? Goodness. And Salumi, I'm very pleased to hear that you have a barrister representing you. That will make things much easier on your side. Just remember that if you do need to take a break, if you want to stop and ask a question, all of those things, you're getting love hearts over on YouTube as well, Salumi. All of those things are okay to ask for. So don't, even with your barrister there, if you don't understand something, you can just ask. And just keep breathing. Right, so just a triple check, Rebecca was asking about the data subject access request. No, there is a time limit on the ability to raise a claim and things like that, which I go into a lot of detail in a lot of videos, but there is no time limit on the data subject access request that I'm aware of, because it's not applied to employment. It doesn't come from employment law. It comes from the data protection laws. And if you want to know more about the data subject access request and how you can use it to collect evidence, we have a free course and template on our website. So if you create a free account on vala.uk, links in the bio, you then can go to templates and choose data subject access request. And there's videos embedded in that whole thing. And I explain how to use the DSAR as a evidence collection tool. And that is an option available to absolutely everyone. Every company, public, private, educational, whatever, they all have to comply with data subject access requests, no matter how big or small they are. A question on YouTube. Forgot to say to everyone, as usual, I am live streaming on both simultaneously. So Anita says, hello, my employers have agreed to settle. Awesome job, Anita. More love hearts, please. More love hearts for Anita over on YouTube. Let me give you some love hearts on YouTube. Amazing. Great job, Anita. Hello, my employers have agreed to settle. How long should it take for a draft COT 3 to come through? My grievance appeal and SAR have been put on hold as I'm still waiting for the draft to be sent. So I would expect that to be pretty quick. And I would still be cognizant, Anita, of the timelines. Because you're in the ACAS early conciliation period, I'm assuming you should still be fine. You kind of get that 6-week window buffer to negotiate a settlement. And it's only after ACAS conciliation finishes that you have to submit the claim. But don't let them drag it out. Don't let them try and run the clock down, basically. But I would expect it to be a week, something like that. It should be pretty fast. And I would keep the pressure up on them to make it pretty fast. My employer ignored my DSAR. You can complain to the ICO for that. The ICO are the enforcement agency for data subject access requests. I don't know how much they will do it, but that, and you can tell the employer that you have raised a complaint to the ICO, which is probably the more effective thing than the ICO actually getting in touch with them. Okay, and I'm just going to quickly answer one more question on YouTube, because poor Ginger Ninja, I could just cry. I have received a letter before action for defamation of character from one of the directors of the company that I am taking to tribunal. This is from the evidence I have sent to the judge. Ginger Ninja, I am so sorry. That is so stressful, and that is such an intimidation tactic. Okay, so I don't have the specific legal framework for defamation of character to explain to you. So I will add that to my list of things to find out about, because I have heard about this as an intimidation tactic a few times now, where they either say it's libel or slander or defamation to just exercise your legal right. Now, I'm assuming, Ginger Ninja, that you haven't gone onto Facebook and you haven't written, the director of this company is a total scumbag and they defrauded me and I hate them and they're a terrible person and you should never work with them. I'm just assuming that is true. Assuming that is true, that you haven't, written letters to all of their suppliers and told them to never work with them again or any of stuff like that. If you have just exercised your legal right to take them to tribunal because you believe that you, in good faith, believe that you have a legal claim that you would like the tribunal to decide about, what are they going to, like, that's not defamation. So, and evidence that you have sent to the judge wants you to send that evidence. I'm assuming that this is the disclosure process that you're in, or the judge has requested this evidence. Is that correct? So yeah, tell me a little bit more, Ginger Ninja, but I'm so sorry, because for everyone, these are the kinds of tricks that some employers will use. It is, yes. Okay, yeah. So you cannot get taken, you cannot lose a defamation case for providing evidence to a judge when they request that evidence. Yeah, so Ginger Ninja and a few other people. So Ginger, are you working with one of our coaches? Are you represented? How are you getting through this? Are we supporting you through this? And then there's a couple people asking on TikTok, how do I talk to you or talk to someone? So let me just quickly explain that. So you can't talk to me because I have too many other things that I have to do, but I have a wonderful set of coaches that you can speak to. So if you're in the earlier stages and you're trying to decide if you should make a claim, so if you're in ACAS early conciliation, it sounds like KT is in ACAS early conciliation, then I would recommend that you use our merits assessment service. You upload a few documents, and then you will have an hour-long call with one of our coaches. After they've read your documents, they will support you and answer your questions, and then they will give you a report of how strong they think your claims could be, how much you might be able to win or settle for. We'll also tell you if it's weak. We're not going to lie to you if we think it's not strong, but we may also tell you, how you might be able to make it stronger. So if you're in ACAS early conciliation or about to start ACAS early conciliation or have finished it and haven't yet submitted a claim, go to the link in my bio and click on the merits assessment, or just go to our homepage and scroll down and you'll see merits assessment. That is the service that you need. For somebody like Ginger Ninja, hey Kat, for somebody like Ginger Ninja who was further along, say Ginger Ninja that you want a little bit of more support right now, or you've done the PH, but you want to get ready for things beyond that. Then we have coaches who can support with tribunal coaching, which is typically in hours. So we sell a 3, 6, and 9 hour package. And so you could buy 3 hours, for example, and talk through this defamation nonsense, for example, and figure out how you want to reply. If you should like my question is, should you flag this to the tribunal to show them that they are trying to intimidate you, for example? I think that's the real kind of question. Thanks for helping so many people with all your knowledge and videos. Thank you. Okay, so let me just try and answer a few more. Oh my goodness, so many questions. Somebody's saying, Charlotte's saying merits assessment was really helpful. We have now submitted our ET1 and waiting for a response. Great job, Charlotte. Great job. Owen says, hello, I lost my job due to refusing a drugs test. However, I never actually refused. I wasn't able to get to work. Benny, yeah, great question. Did you work at the company for over 2 years? That's my first question as well. 9, 10 months, you say 9, 10 months. So before 2 years, your employer can't sack you for a reason that is discriminatory, or they can't sack you for trying to use a protected right, like, joining a union, whistleblowing, requesting part-time work, things like that. I'm not sure about the drugs test. I'm not sure. Oh, and I can't think of anything that might fall under the legal category for that one right now. But if you think anything else is relevant, drop it in the chat. Lolo says, hey, I started a claim on your website, but I'm not sure what the process is. Okay, Lolo, so let me just explain. Let me just explain that. So I'm assuming you mean I'm not sure what the VALA process is, or the tribunal process. I'll answer both just in case. So let's start with the tribunal process. And the VALA process. Okay, well, let me just quickly answer the tribunal process for other people's benefit. If people want to know, I'm back. If people want to know what the tribunal process is, if you go to my profile on TikTok, there is a PDF of like a little map. I think it's called Employment Tribunal Map or something like that. That will explain the whole process of how tribunal works. The VALA process is you buy a ET1 particulars of claim template. The next thing that happens is that we ask you to, now a lot of people, I don't think that we've got this perfectly right, to be honest, but we're working on it. Because the first thing that we've asked people to do when they've purchased it is to go into our claim builder and to choose the claims that they are thinking about, that they are planning to make an ET1 claim for. And I think a lot of people expect to see like a template first, but we take you through this wizard before we show you the template. And that's because what we found was that a lot of people were going in with just like just what happened to them. like a timeline, when all the tribunal wants is the legal claims. And so we try to kind of force you into that, which I know is a little annoying, and I'm sorry. But it'll take you into the claim builder first, and we'll ask you to try and label the specific claims, and then we generate a template that you'll be able to kind of fill in boxes and see it as a Word document and things like that. So that's how the process works. And then once you're ready, you will get to like a template where you can fill in boxes after you do the claim builder. Once you've gotten it to something that you're happy with, then you will have a button that you can press that says request peace of mind check. And then that whole document will go over to one of our coaches, and we will read over it to see if it makes sense. And, if you've missed anything out or if there's any issues, and then we will email you back with any feedback from that peace of mind check. So that's how the process works. Oh, Claire, it's so good to see you. Danae and Vala were amazing with me. I've never forgotten their support. Always recommend them. Thank you so much, Claire. You are amazing. Okay, loads of questions, but let me quickly jump over to YouTube with Ange. Hi, Danae. Thank you for your time. What kind of questions should I expect on a remedy hearing? Great question, Ange. There are no witnesses, only myself on my side and the barrister on the other side. Okay, so this is a good question because remedy hearings can sometimes take people by surprise. You're very welcome, Lulu. So remedy hearings, you kind of still have to fight your corner. So you're not done fighting. Okay, Ange, you're not done fighting yet, but you're close. You're so close. Because once the respondent has lost the claim and found that they did something wrong and that they're going to have to pay for it, their next job is to try and minimize how much they have to pay. And so they will fight to try and minimize that number. So you will have submitted already a schedule of loss. And for everybody else's benefit, the schedule of loss is basically how much that person thinks that they need to be compensated for what happened to them. And you lay out a schedule of loss by the claims. It all comes back to the claims. And somebody asked, what kind of claims are there? If you go to vala.uk and create a free account, you will see my claims. We take you through a wizard to help you identify your specific legal claim. So Ange will have already done a schedule of loss to say, here is what I think I should be compensated for. Now, the tribunal will make up their own mind about it, but they will be guided by what you have requested. What the respondent will be doing is trying to pick apart that amount. So let's say, for example, Ange, tell me if you have injury to feelings included in your claim, for example, in your remedy. But let's say that one of the things that you're doing is you're saying, I lost 2 months' wages. An employer might ask you questions like, well, did you try and find a job during that time? What evidence do you have? What evidence do you have for trying to find a job during that time? Why did it take you so long to find a job? Can you tell me like what you were actually doing every day to find a job? Like that's the kinds of questions you might get. So, or if you say, I found another job, but it only paid 50% what I was earning in this other job so I want the difference. They might say, well, why did you take such a low paying job? Like, why'd you do that? I mean, it's a real, it's not nice. And if you did injury to feelings as so if discrimination cases have something called injury to feelings, it can be up to, well, technically it's uncapped, but it's often up to about £50,000. So let's say that you claimed injury to feelings and you said that you were hurt and upset and that you suffered a lot of distress, for example. They might say, well, you were able to still go to work, so you mustn't have been that upset. And so what you're looking for is the, for you to be able to say in that situation, well, I cried every day, or, I put into my bundle in my witness statement how much this upset me. And, I was unable to work for this amount of time, but I had to keep working because I had to pay my bills, all that kind of stuff. That is the kinds of questions that will come to you during a remedy hearing. Does that help, Ange? How come we're not posting much? It's what it is, Quilly, is I've got a few things launching really soon that are big and exciting, but there's only me. And so I've kind of had to prioritize. So I'm trying to make sure I always do the lives, but I haven't been able to do as many videos, but that will change. And I do have a few exciting launches in the next maybe week, 2 weeks to tell you about. Oh, good. I'm so glad that helped, Ange. So another, I'm so sorry to hear. Well, first of all, congratulations. Vala helped me prepare my tribunal case. I won £10,000. They have not paid the money. Okay, so this sometimes does happen. First of all, huge well done for getting that far. That means that it's going to go on the record that they have done this to you as well. Did they have they not paid the money and liquidated the company, or have they not paid the money and they're still going as a concern? Have you you may need to use the county courts to enforce that, but that should be a relatively straightforward thing to do. What action have you taken to try and recover that money? I will say that high court enforcement could not help. How can I go? I think that it's not high court. I think it's county court. I think it's like small claims court, basically. He's still showing as active in Company's House. Okay, well, he still owes you that money. So you should be able to use just the regular county courts to chase that down. Could you do me a favor, another, because I keep meaning to like make a guide for this. Could you email hello? Oh, well, Marcy's saying you can go straight to the bailiffs. I mean, in England, I'm sure you could. I don't know if it works differently in Scotland or Wales or Northern Ireland. Could you email hello@vala.uk another and say just what you told me. You supported me. I won my case, but no, they're not paying, and I don't know which court to use. I don't know how to do it. And then I will see if I can get the team to pull together some information and send that back to you. And then I will learn it myself, and then I can share it with all of you. And you can say as well, Danae on TikTok told me to send in this email, because then they know to ask me about it, and I can give them some more context. Sometimes I feel really bad. My poor team, they get these random emails because Danae said to email in. So if you just mention that I said to email in, then they can ask me about it as well, and I can give them some more context. Okay, let me just try and answer a few more questions. You're very welcome, Ange. Okay, so Andrea is saying was told civil court. Yeah, I think that civil court and county court are the same things. You're very welcome, another, and I'm so sorry to hear that you're going through that extra stress on top of the stress that you already had to get to the place that you were. Oh, I wanted to tell you all as well. So I'm in conversation with the Law Society of England and Wales. I'm actually on the board of the tech part of the Law Society of Scotland. I often talk to the SRA and places like that. And one of the things that is in recommendation right now is to give the Employment Tribunal more powers, especially to enforce payment. And there was a consultation recently, and I added into that consultation a big +1 for enforcement of payments, because I hear from so many of you, hey Mickey, I hear from so many of you that is an issue. So just so you know, it is known as an issue, and I've added what tiny little bit of weight I have to the issue. I think it was the Law Society of England and Wales were the people that I was most recently speaking about it with, and every time I get a chance to talk to somebody about it, I do raise it, because I know it's such a big issue for all of you. Can you guys help if I live in Scotland but I was employed by a company in England? Yes, Butterdream. We are actually based in Edinburgh, but we can support with England, Scotland, and Wales. Okay, another says I've used the passport. Yeah, definitely give more details in the email, and we'll see. I'll just ask the team to kind of help you as a favor to me, so that I can learn about what to do next. Okay, so Butterdream is saying I have a PH coming up, but I have no idea what to do, and I have no money to hire anyone to help. Totally understand. So Butterdream, I have a lot of videos about the preliminary hearing. So definitely go back into my TikTok profile and watch, and YouTube. They're mirrored on both. Watch. I think there's even more on TikTok than YouTube. I've got a lot of videos about the PH. Yeah, so definitely watch those. And I think we have some more information on our website about Well, there should be, I think, yeah, there's definitely things about the pH on our website as well. The key thing that you want to understand is list of issues and knowing that that's going to come. The other thing is, depending on when your pH is, come to our Employment Tribunal support group, and we will you can talk to other people who have already had a PH and hear from them. Also, I know some of the people here, oh, sorry, time traveler, thank you, preliminary hearing. So after you submit your tribunal claim, typically the next thing that happens is a preliminary hearing. It's on 5th Feb. Okay, I think we might have another support group before then, but I've got tons of videos that can help you as well. Just watch my website or just check out the TikTok profile. And if you haven't signed up to come to our next Employment Tribunal support group, if you go to the webinars page on our website, you should be able to put in your email address and we'll send you an invitation. I bought a merits assessment on Sunday. When will the coach get in touch with me, please? Good question. So you should have you been assigned a coach? You should have been assigned a coach already, KS. Have you been assigned a coach? Have you been told who your coach is? That's my next question. Actually, you know what, Kate? Yes, you were. Okay, great. Email hello@vala.uk, and I would have expected, depending on when you got assigned, I would expect you to be hearing back today or tomorrow morning. But chase, and we have a wonderful team who monitors that email inbox, and we'll check in for you as well and just see if we can just double check timelines and stuff for you. Once you've been assigned, once you submitted your information, we do give the coaches a little bit of time to review stuff. But Jade or Bemi, who look after our email account, they should be able to kind of give you a firmer deadline, and they're very lovely. Okay. Do I have a case for discrimination if a protected characteristic only formed part of the reason to fire? Well, if the other reason wasn't, I mean, it might even be that even having the protected characteristic as any part of the reason, that means that they would have to clear a higher bar to make that legal. For example, disability, you can be sacked for having a disability legally, but the hoops that an employer would have to jump through to make that legal is much higher. So I think that would be something for the tribunal to decide, but I don't think it should stop you from trying to make a claim or pursue towards a claim. Okay, I'm conscious that I have so many questions to answer, so let me just try and do a little bit of rapid fire. Does injury to feelings cover whistleblowing? I don't think so, KT. I think it just covers discrimination, but maybe it does actually. You know what to do, KT, is go to the Employment Tribunal decisions page on gov.uk and search for injury to feelings and whistleblowing and see if you can find an example of one. I do think that maybe, I know it covers discrimination, but I'm not entirely sure about whistleblowing. I caught COVID in work and got a long COVID illness and now struggling to work. Do I have a case? So Elbow, good question. So I think there's two parts to your case. One, I don't have a lot of experience with, and the other one I can help you with. If you were injured at work, that's one of the areas where people actually do have options to get a lawyer affordably, because usually the claim is worth enough to the lawyer to do like a no win, no fee and things like that. I don't know about catching COVID at work. I'll answer the other part that I definitely know. So if you have long COVID, and long COVID can meet the criteria for a disability. So even if it doesn't matter where you got COVID, if you now have long COVID to the level of matching the disability criteria, then you have the protections that any other disabled person would have. And there is, I have a video on my profile. There is at least one case where someone with long COVID was found to have had a disability in the Employment Tribunal. So Elbow, what I would suggest you do is go and watch that video that I made about long COVID and disability. And if you don't already know what your protections are as a potentially disabled person, I also have videos about disability the definition of a disability in the Equality Act is that it has a significant impact on your day-to-day life and that it has lasted or will last for over 12 months. So assuming you can fit within that criteria for your long COVID, then you should have the protections of a disabled person. And yeah, so there you go. I have a free ebook, Elbow, that might be quite helpful for you at this point. If you just go to the link in my profile and just click on the free ebook thing and download that, that should give you some more idea about like your protections and what you can do next and everything else. Right. So can a detriment for whistleblowing Section 15 of the Equality Act, miscarriage of justice in grievance? Can you remind me what is Section 15 of the Equality Act? Remarkably, I don't have them all memorized. So which one is Section 15, Sean? Right. Let's see what else. Philippa is saying, my employer didn't send me back to occupational health, and I feel like they should have on other occasions too. What would the claims be? Was this illegal? So Philippa, this sounds like, again, this is a disability thing. So anybody who doesn't know about the 6 types of discrimination, jump to go watch that playlist on my TikTok profile, because there are 6 different ways, there are 6 different protections for discrimination in the Equality Act. And disability is the only protected characteristic that is covered by all 6. So people who have disabilities are the most protected under the Equality Act. And often people don't realize how much protection they have as a disabled person. And so, you know, if you're in a dispute with your employer about whether or not you have a disability, if they should have been offering you reasonable adjustments and they're refusing it, if they've sacked you because of something that is a byproduct of your disability. So maybe like I have ADHD. If I got sacked because I was always late, that is a potential different kind of discrimination. So definitely go and watch my 6 types of discrimination video playlist and download the ebook as well. And that will kind of help you understand what your rights are as a disabled person. And you don't have to have a diagnosis. Like, it would be better. So I'm autistic, have anxiety and depression. Yeah, I mean, you're almost certainly going to tick the disabled box between those 3. Autistic in particular should be a pretty quick one in terms of meeting that criteria. So yeah, it sounds like you might be in territory of discrimination arising from a disability or failure to make reasonable adjustments because they're not engaging with occupational health. No, an employer cannot hold your redundancy payment back because of a disciplinary. Just because you've been dismissed or potentially dismissed does not mean that they do not have to pay your statutory payments. And if you have a redundancy payment, at minimum, they cannot withhold your statutory redundancy, whether or not they can withhold anything above statutory. So let's say your statutory redundancy is a week per year, and that's after 2 years of employment, but then they give you like an extra week or something like that. Your contract would say whether or not they could withhold that part, but they cannot withhold your statutory redundancy payment, your statutory notice payments, and things like that as a result of a disciplinary process. Okay, let me answer a few more questions. Y'all have got some amazing y'all got some amazing questions. Keith says, I'm thinking of trying for a strikeout as I can show that they are lying in the ET3 response and can also show I don't owe the statutory demand. Keith, what I would think about is in retaliation for taking them to tribunal. So let's focus on the lying on the ET3. What you could do first is something called a deposit order. So if you've submitted an ET1 and you know that they have not got a leg to stand on, you have like smoking gun evidence, you know that them fighting this is just So ridiculous. And you know that legally, not just morally, you know that legally they don't have a leg to stand on. Then what you can request and what they can request is something called a deposit order, which means that you have to, whoever gets ordered it could be either side, has to pay £1,000 to keep going. Because basically they don't, the judge would evaluate the case at that point and say, you know what, this isn't looking good for you. So unless you're willing to pay this £1,000, you can't keep going. And if they don't pay the £1,000, then you lose. So I would maybe consider the deposit order, Keith. I think we might have a template for that, but I would go there before I would go to strikeout, maybe. As a preliminary hearing at the end of the month, they said they would pay 1,000. They tried to give me 3,000. What the hell? I'm at the preliminary hearing of the month. They would pay 1,000. They tried to give me 3,000. So this isn't paying you £1,000. This is paying the court £1,000. So it's basically like if you don't have to pay a fee to make a tribunal claim anymore. They got rid of that. But sometimes employers, I think they put this in because if you're on shaky ground, then one side can ask the tribunal to make the other side pay that £1,000 and hold it almost as a deposit against their eventual loss, because they're probably going to lose. And it's meant to be like a, are you sure you want to go ahead kind of thing. So I would look at that. If you do, now keep in mind, I'm not in tribunals every day, but my team is. So if you do want to talk very specific tactics with one of our legal coaches, and remember, they're all lawyers, or they're either lawyers who have worked in tribunal and represented people in tribunal, or they're people with other training who have represented people in tribunal. So they've all got a tribunal experience. If you want to talk very specific tactics, I would recommend our tribunal coaching package. And you can just go to our website and click coaching, and you'll see the coaching packages there. Oh my goodness, time has flown. Time has flown. Okay, I've got a few more minutes. I'm gonna answer as many questions as I can. I would like to understand. Hi, Nicole. Good to see you. I would like to understand how protected I am from redundancy whilst pregnant. So your employer cannot make you redundant just because you are pregnant. Your employer cannot put you to the top of a redundancy list, but just because you are pregnant. You can be made redundant as a pregnant person, but it can't be the reason for the pregnancy. Now, proving that is sometimes quite complex, but possible. But pregnancy can't protect you from redundancy, but an employer, any reasonable employer, is going to have to do a little bit more work to make sure that they can demonstrate that the pregnancy was not involved in the decision. I hope that helps, Nicole. Can a COT3 be discussed until the PH? So great question, Andrea. Yes. So in fact, even after you finish ACAS early conciliation, I thought there are new laws this year to state pregnant women cannot be made redundant. I'm not aware of that law, Disco, but I will ask the team about it. You can settle at any point throughout the entire tribunal process. There are two main mechanisms. There are two mechanisms to settle with. One is the COT3, and the other one is a negotiation that is approved by a solicitor. And Valerie, I will come to you. Thank you. Sorry, it's just so many. So even after you finish ACAS early conciliation, your ACAS conciliator can still facilitate a COT3 agreement. So yes, absolutely, Andrea, you can still be negotiating all the way through the process as much as you like. So yes, and it is very normal. In fact, I think ACAS even gets in touch with people after the tribunal claim has been submitted to see if they want to reopen negotiations, which may or may not, make sense, but it's absolutely fine to do. Okay, Valerie, let me see if I can get to your question. Valerie. Can a company terminate you for performance then 1 week later say it's gross misconduct and refuse to pay you your 2-month pay? Ooh. Valerie, how long have you worked at the company? Over 2 years or under 2 years? But let me think about this a little bit more. So, I think that, like, I'm struggling to understand how this might be legal, but let me explain. Let me explain what's at play here. So, one is if it was your contractual notice payment or if it was your statutory notice payment. I've worked 1 year, 3 months, and it would be for deduction of wages, not unfair dismissal. Okay, yeah, I think that makes total sense, Valerie. So let's assume I'm assuming that 2 months notice is a combination of statutory notice and contractual notice. And let me make sure I understand. Everyone understands that. So employees who work for a company for over, I think it's like the first month, have a statutory notice period of 1 week per year worked. And employers can't do anything about that. They can't do anything about that. They have to pay that 1 week. And that's done. They can, to be competitive, to be better employers, hey Shaba, all that kind of stuff. They can decide to increase the notice period for lots of different reasons. And they can put into your contract that you have a longer notice period. Now that's your contractual notice on top of your statutory notice. So Valerie, I think I think unfair deduction of wage or unlawful deduction of wages sounds like the claim. It would either be unpaid wages or unlawful deduction. It could be unlawful deduction instead of unpaid wages. I can't remember the exact distinction between those two. So maybe look those up on the claim builder in Vala. So to then change the reason why they dismissed you in order, I'm assuming somewhere in the contract it says that they don't have to pay you your contractual notice if you were dismissed for gross misconduct. I just don't see how they're going to get away with that. So I think this is going to come down to the interpretation of the contract and the actions that they have taken. And I think based on what you have told me, you would have a pretty good argument to make to the tribunal to say, if you haven't already got it, make sure that you have written down and kept as much evidence as you can about the conversations, who said what. Write down the who, what, where, when of all of these conversations. We have a free timeline in Vala where you can document this. But, if it was mutually agreed, do you have written notes from when you agreed that? Just the scribbles and stuff like that. Go back. Everything that you remember them saying, email thread, fantastic. That is going to make a big difference if and when you actually get to tribunal. And that's big tips for everybody. I received a termination later saying that they would pay the 2 months, and then they pulled it. They're having a giraffe. That should be a pretty. I mean, I can't wait for them to defend that one in the employment tribunal. That's going to be fun. Don't forget about your 3-month minus 1 day deadline to start ACAS early conciliation. Make sure that you put that in. You start ACAS early conciliation in time so that this is, a straightforward case. Okay, what not to disclose on a welfare call before submitting a formal grievance. Yeah, good. You're doing really well, Valerie. Good. So KS, the thing about tribunal and building a good case and protecting yourself, it's a really difficult line to walk, because what the tribunal, all of you who are in a dispute should always be imagining what the hypothetical future tribunal would think about what you're doing right now. Even if you have no intention of ever taking it that far, you would still want to be thinking about what that hypothetical tribunal would think, because you want to build as strong a case as possible to settle or to get them to sort the problem or whatever. And that hypothetical tribunal in the future, the questions that they're going to be asking is, did KS try and resolve this internally and use as many of the internal processes as they could. Did they follow, the ACAS grievance process? Did they raise a grievance? Um, did they in good faith engage in the grievance process? Or had they made up their mind immediately that they were just going to take them to tribunal? Because they don't like that. They want to see that you have engaged in good faith with the process before you had to make it legal. And there are some exceptions to that, in the case of sexual harassment or something like that. That's like a get out of jail free card. You just go straight to, like ACAS. But in most cases, they want to see that you have engaged with the process and that you have, as much as you can, worked in good faith to try and resolve the issue. So if you're on a welfare call, this sounds like it's to do with disability or mental health, probably mental health disability and things like that. There's very little incentive for you to be too guarded. And in fact, what I would argue is the more important, I wouldn't worry too much about what you say. I would worry more about making sure that everything that you say and that they say is written down so that you can call on it later if you need to. So I wouldn't worry too much. I can't, off the top of my head, I'm sure there are exceptions. I can't think of anything that you're going to say that's going to not protect you or to make you less protected. I think the thing that you can do to protect yourself the most when you're in a dispute with your employer is to write absolutely everything down. And the other thing, and again, this is about more what you do say rather than what you don't say. The other thing that you can do if discrimination is involved or harassment or something like that, and whistleblowing, is you can document when you raise the issue very specifically, because extra legal protections can kick in there. So, we were talking about Barry earlier on Benny earlier on who had done a whistleblowing situation. That as soon as that whistleblowing happens, if that fulfills the criteria for a protected disclosure, then Benny has extra legal protections. But later on, the employer might say, "Oh, Benny never said that on that day." So, if you're documenting it, you're making yourself more safe. If you complain about discrimination of you, of other people at work, and if you mention the specific protected characteristic, so for example, I believe that I am being treated badly because I have this illness, for example, that's called a protected act. And that protects you against something called victimization. Now, we've all heard victimization as a term. Basically in common parlance, victimization means someone is being mean to me, like horrible to me. But victimization is a very specific legal term. It's one of the 6 types of discrimination. And in the Equality Act, victimization means I raised discrimination or harassment as an issue, and I said which protected characteristic it was related to. I believe that I'm being treated differently because I'm Black. I believe that I'm being treated differently because I have a disability. I believe that this person is being treated differently because she is a woman. All of those are protected acts. And if they treat you badly as a result of that, then you have extra protections, and that's illegal too. So in my experience, it's not about not saying things. It's about saying things, sometimes carefully, to make sure that you tick the box, and writing down exactly when you said it and what you said so that you have that evidence for later on. Sorry, that was a very long answer, KS. I hope that's helpful. Yeah, I got on my soapbox a little bit there, but let me know if that answers your question or gives you a little bit more guidance about kind of how to protect yourself in these kinds of conversations. Because I think that's fundamentally what you're trying to figure out is, how do I protect myself? I have disability. They've made no accommodations for me. I have over 2 years service. So they said I never disclosed my disability. I did, and provided proof. They are not off to a good start, are they? The 2 years service is actually not as important here, because your protections as a disabled person kick in even before you get the job. They kick in during the interview process. And so it sounds like, I'm assuming, just TikToking about, I'm assuming that you know about your protections as a disabled person, but if you don't, definitely watch my 6 types of discrimination video and download the ebook as well, because that will talk you through kind of what your options are and what you might want to do next since you're off sick. So actually, in your case, definitely download this the ebook, and that should give you that ebook talks about how to build leverage and then how to work through the process. I am obsessed with you. Thanks for your service, saving lives. You're so welcome, Hugh. I'm man, like this should not be such a problem, you know? Like it pisses me off. Hey, Allegro. Good to see you. So good to see you. Good. I'm so glad I have been helpful. Can I make a tribunal claim without warning my employer? No, Jenna. So the first step would actually be that you go to ACAS Early Conciliation. That's just submitting a form on a website. ACAS has Early Conciliation. You submit a form, you say what's wrong, and then they get in touch with your employer and ask if your employer would like to try and negotiate a resolution before it gets to tribunal. So no, it wouldn't be a surprise, because you cannot raise a tribunal claim. In 99% of cases, you cannot raise a tribunal claim without going through ACAS Early Conciliation, and your employer is notified during ACAS Early Conciliation. If you want to know how that process works, Jenna, there's a link in my bio. Oh God, I've got to go. There's a link in my bio that has a map on it, and it has like a PDF with like a diagram that shows you kind of how the whole process works. Okay, I'm so sorry, Hum, and I'm so sorry I haven't been able to answer the question about the section of the Equality Act. If you could email us, we can try and answer you that way. How much would it cost to have a barrister at my tribunal? So Shells, we are testing a representation. You're wrong. The employer is only notified if we ask for it. Really? I mean, the whole point of ACAS is to negotiate a settlement. I'll check that, user, just in case. I could be wrong. But I mean, the whole point of ACAS as an organization is to negotiate a settlement. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to answer. Do you know how much it would cost to have a barrister at my tribunal? You can ask that ACAS not go through early. Oh, okay. Mine said they wouldn't do ACAS and you can skip the step. You just get the certificate. Yes, you can. You have to submit the ACAS Early Conciliation, but then you can say, I don't want to negotiate. Which might mean that an employer doesn't get notified, and then you could then go straight to employment tribunal. And it is that point where they would get notified. You're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you for clarifying. I forgot that most of the time I find that people who are submitting the ACAS Early Conciliation would like to try it, but you're absolutely right that you can request to skip that step. Okay, so Kieran. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to do like, okay, does it look bad if you don't get it? No. That's kind of like a part of the protected conversations where the tribunal doesn't get to look in on negotiations. So I'm not aware of that being an issue if you choose not to try early conciliation. Costs. A barrister is probably going to run you £300 to £400 an hour, and maybe more, something like that. We are testing some representation services if you would like very limited, where we basically, some of our coaches are able to do a bit of representation in addition, but we're mainly focusing on helping you represent yourself. And so basically, Shells, get in touch if you want to see how we might be able to help you get ready for your date. If it is, you say you're primarily date now, genuinely, if you're trying to save costs, I don't think you really need to worry about representation for your preliminary hearing. I would be focusing on, if you have any money to spend, I would be focusing on representation at your final hearing. Preliminary hearing, we have a coaching package that can help you get ready for that costs £225. Buy that. If you have very limited funds, spend them at the final hearing rather than the PH. Right, I'm so sorry that I can't answer more questions. I just want to keep going, but I'm actually going to go visit a family member now who's unwell. So If you have further questions and I have not been able to answer them, please email hello@vala.uk and we will do our best to answer them there. And please remember the merits assessment service. That's how you get an hour's call with a coach to help you understand if you should submit a claim, if you're in ACAS early conciliation, how much do I settle for? That's that stage. If you're preparing for a preliminary hearing, we have a package for each type and we can support you through that. And if you are in the main part of your tribunal claim process, and we have tribunal coaching that we can support you with for that. All of the information for all of those is on the link in my profile or on vala.uk. Okay, I'm so sorry I have to go. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and see you later. Bye-bye. Bye, YouTube.